Hey veterans, if your ankles took a beating during service, whether it was just from a rolled ankle or a bad landing from a jump or just years of wear and tear, you might be eligible for VA disability for an ankle condition. But the problem is that most veterans just don't apply or don't file a claim, or they just don't know. In my opinion, an ankle or a knee or really any orthopedic condition can be one of the toughest VA disabilities to service connect, but it's certainly not impossible, especially for those of you who were in MOSs or just different career fields that required a lot of activity, infantry, jumping, whatever it is. Those different positions or different career fields will help you articulate service connection. And so in today's video, what I want to go over are just the way that the VA looks at ankle conditions and how they rate it, so that I can give you some tips and some tricks and some ideas and things that you can think of to maybe inspire you to file for a VA disability claim for ankle conditions if you have one, of course. Now, the first thing that we need to talk about, which is important for every single VA disability claim, is you've got to have a diagnosis. The VA is looking for, really any type of ankle condition that you have, but a few of them, sprains and strains, these can be from just overuse or just acute injuries that, led to whatever pain that you're feeling today or whatever, issues you have with range of motion, fractures, even arthritis, tendon injuries, or simply instability in your ankle. Obviously, once you have that diagnosis, some other things that I want to make sure that I emphasize is just medical documentation. Okay, so if you were injured in the military, you have service treatment records. If you went to the doctor for ankle conditions, and I don't think that's uncommon. I think it's uncommon that people don't go to the doctor when they're hurt. But, if you did and you have that documented in your service treatment records, that's, excellent medical evidence for helping you get this connected to your service. And then, of course, after the fact, post-service medical records, just to show continuity of symptoms and treatment. I think most of us that injured ourselves, whether it's an ankle or a knee issue, we probably don't always go to the doctor to show that continuity of symptoms. And I think you could probably get away with it on this one, but it does help. And if you're going for an ankle injury, a VA disability claim, going to the doctor to show that you still have issues will help you. But what will also help you is the diagnostic imaging, x-rays, MRIs, etc. They're going to send you to that anyways with your C&P exam. So you can almost certainly count on that. They're going to certainly send you to get those x-rays for your ankle sprain or whatever ankle condition you're going to file for. So the next step that I want to go into is I just want to help you understand like how the VA rates ankle pain or ankle conditions. And there's 5 different diagnostic codes. So it starts at 5270 and then it goes all the way to 5724. I'm only going to talk about 2 in today's video. The other ones I think are a little bit more rare for you to get. But if you're battling with ankle conditions, I want you to go into the 38 CFR and I want you to just type in 5270 and just read all the way down, because there might be something that I'm not going to cover today that might help you out. And if you are applying for or filing for VA disability for an ankle or any condition, it's always a good idea to read for yourself what's in the 38 CFR. So for today's video, we're going to go over 5270 and 5271, but essentially all of them are the same. Okay, they're gonna measure your range of motion. They want to know, how does what's the range of motion on your ankle? And there's 2 different ways. There's the dorsiflexion, which is up. So, taking your ankle and trying to, get it up as high as you can without injuring yourself or without experiencing pain. And then, of course, there's plantar flexion, which is with your ankle down. And those are the two ways that they're gonna to measure this. And they're gonna basically use a tool, a goniometer. You've probably seen them, and the doctor should be able to measure your range of motion. They should do it several times during the exam just to get a good rating. And you can ask your doctor, but you should, stop when you feel pain. And that's, how you're supposed to be measured. And then it goes, based on how much range of motion you have is how you are going to be rated percentage-wise. So I'm going to go through the percentages really fast for you here. So for 5270, which they call ankylosis of the ankle, if your plantar flexion is at more than 40 degrees, or in dorsiflexion at more than 10, or with abduction, adduction, or inversion, or eversion deformity, you could get a 40% rating. Now that one's going to be really high and probably not the most common, but we'll go on to the next one. In plantar flexion, which remember is down, if it's between 30 and 40, or in dorsiflexion, which is facing up, is between 0 and 10, it's a 30% rating, so that's a high value one. And then for the 20% rating is plantar flexion less than 30 degrees, you're at 20%. Now, 5270 ankylosis of the ankle might be a little bit hard for everybody to get, but it's possible if you have those range of motion problems. Now, for Diagnostic Code 5271, that's just limited motion of the ankle, which is probably more common for veterans that don't have it as bad. But that one's measured the same exact way, with dorsiflexion, which is up, or plantar flexion, which is down. And there's only two ratings in this. It's 20 and 10%. And and I won't go over the degrees of ratings. But what I will do in this is I'll tell you that what helped me was understanding this condition, and I didn't get either one of these two for mine, but going to a podiatrist, like a personal podiatrist, and just talking to them about your options. I think that's a great way to do this, because there are so many different diagnostics codes in for your ankle conditions. Going to a podiatrist that is your podiatrist and understanding. Bring these, bring the ratings in there. Bring all your medical records from service, and explain to them what you're trying to do, and see if they can help you figure out where you are before you put that in. And I realize that could be expensive, an expensive doctor's visit, but it might help you out. So I think that's a good idea if you do that. And like I said, there are several other diagnostic codes for ankle conditions that I won't go through today, but I will mention one that can be, and that's just painful joints. So there you could get like a 10% rating, and I can do a video on how that works, because it can really be for any joint in your body. But I can, if I do a video on that, I'll link it to this video, or just shoot a comment in the comment section below, and I can explain what I know about that. So real quick, so some common mistakes and just some tips that I want you to be cognizant of if you're going for an ankle disability claim. Number one is underreporting symptoms, okay? The first things first is you got to go into these things knowing what is going to be asked, and you got to know what the criteria is. And then you got to make sure that if you do have those symptoms, or you fall into that criteria, make sure that you mention it, and mention it even if it's not in there, because you just may not understand what medical terminology is in there, and maybe the way that you explain it is different than how you understand it. Maybe it does compare to something that might help you fall into a different diagnostic code. So make sure that if you have instability in your ankles, that you mention that. Explain it to them. If you have pain during movement, we've already talked about that one. Mention that for sure. If you use any type of assistive devices to walk, that might also help you as well. Some mistakes that I know that a lot of you make is just not having good medical evidence, or not having good evidence, period. You want to make sure that you can service connect every single disability claim that you have, and you need to have evidence to do that. Just don't rely on you just walking into a C&P exam and explaining yourself. That very, very, very rarely works. Document why this is connected to the service. Put it in a personal statement. If you were injured and you don't have medical records, go get a buddy letter from someone that saw that you were injured or remembers that you were injured. Maybe there's photos of you limping. Maybe there's, I don't know, but you need to have evidence, whether it's non-medical or medical or both. You definitely need that. You want to have up-to-date medical records showing that you still have this condition. You still have this diagnosis. One of the requirements is a current diagnosis, not a diagnosis, a current diagnosis. And then lastly is ignoring secondary conditions. Listen, if you have ankle conditions, you could have other problems that started with the ankle conditions, or at least it should be evaluated to determine whether you have that or not. If you have knee problems that you think may have been caused by your ankle conditions, I encourage you to talk to your personal doctor about it and ask them, is it possible that my ankle condition caused me to walk funny and now I have knee issues or hip issues or back issues? Talk to your doctor. You're not going to be able to determine that. You're not going to be able to figure that out, and neither is your CMP examiner, but a doctor will. And if a doctor can, and they put it into a letter for you or in your notes, that can help you out a long way. I do have a website that has a directory of medical professionals who can help you with that. The website's free. Those doctors will charge you, but I want to say most of them will do a free consultation. And if they think that they can help you, why not, right? But first, go to your personal doctor and see if they'll do it for you, because that's the best way to get it done. But there is a link in the description box below to my website if you're looking for those directory of medical professionals with VA experience. Click on it, cruise through there, see which one works for you, and go for it. So some tips for a successful ankle disability claim: detailed medical records, right? Make sure that all your diagnoses are well documented. Make sure that you have personal statements, okay? Explain how you got injured. That CMP examiner wants to hear your story. They don't want to read a 3-page letter, but they want to know why you think it's service connected. I injured my ankle on this date and this time. I was deployed here, or I wasn't deployed. This is, what I did. I went to the doctor diagnosed me with a sprained ankle, whatever it is. And then, document that in a personal statement. Grab buddy statements if you have them. If someone witnessed that happen, pop that in there. For those of you who didn't go to the doctor, but you have a lot of wear and tear, sometimes you can write a compelling, well-articulated personal statement about your time on airborne duty, where you jumped a lot, you had 15 jumps, whatever it is. And, because of that, you have the wear and tear. There's plenty of documents out there on the internet that you can print out that shows medical studies and how, paratroopers have injured their ankles, and how all that wear and tear has led to certain conditions. So you can print those out and put them in there as well. I would totally do that for this type of condition. And then, of course, any medical visits that you have that are ongoing, I think those are always helpful to show that you have this condition. Listen, if you have an ankle condition and you served in the military, please do your homework. Figure out if you think that disability was caused by your military service. Talk to your doctor, explain some of the things that you went through. If you have something that, if you had a bad sprain during the military, that can easily be connected to service. You just got to make sure that you have the right evidence. I hope this video helped you out, and go get the rating that you deserve.